sixth time is a charm, perhaps. Egyptian Heaven and Hell, E.A. Wallis Budge. And those above the stern of the boat read, Field of him that beareth up the Rurnash. The end of the second boat likewise terminates in bearded human heads, but each is surmounted by a pair of plumes. And we see here that there's a uterine sort of hint at the whole thing. And in the center of the boat, which between the two demonesses stands a huge sistrum, which is a symbol of Hathor, and indicates that the boat is that of Hathor or Hathor Isis. So we have Neper, and above that we have Sun, Jun, okay, no, I don't. Anyways, I don't remember how to say Isis, but Hathor is one of the ways to say Hathor. In the fore part of the boat is a beetle and is described as this great entity, Neper. So, Neterpun. Neterpun. Neper. Okay, so it's pronounced right. Above the demonesses to the left of the sistrum are written the words, their boats send forth their words. Over the plumed head in the front is written, and over that, at the other end of the boat, Osiris crieth into it. And on the side of the boat are the signs of the wedged eye and the sign of heaven. The wedged eye, if you remember right, is 63/64. It's a fraction. The prow of the third boat is surmounted by a crown of the south and the stern of the crown of the north, which is between the two scepters, which symbolize the entities Yinpu and Yip Oat, aka the jackal, Knemu, Knbetu, are the Knemu of the two corners. An ibis-headed entity, with similar attributes, is called Jahute Har Khentva, Thoth and his steps. To find out more about Thoth, you may want to look at my alt-right bird on the political end. It's not what you think. It's not blood and soil, it's not the blood and soil sort of philosophy. Sort of a new, just like my new alt-left, a new alt-right to replace, the alt of the alt, But don't prejudge, just look at it if you're going to do that. An ape-headed entity with similar attributes called Yafu Har Ksent. Ksandfa. Ksandfa. So it's Ksand the first. Okay. So I was pronouncing that wrong. But you see how many steps? 5 steps. Just like you have 5 knives into Apep. So we have, 5 types of things you have to do, right? The second hour, the upper register, we see 7 entities represented or referred to. Remember that they're not necessarily saying this is what God looks like or this is what these entities look like. They're using a linguistic way of, what does the ram head mean? What does this mean? There's, and you can all think of it as the same God, really. Linus is headed deity, which is a similar attribute called Knuit Dent Ba. Cutter of the soul. Which Linus headed kind of hints at Bast, but a different type of way of looking at that. All the above entities are in mummified form and occupy chairs of state. So the preserved, so the everlasting qualities being represented there. An entity standing upright and holding a curp, scepter, or weapon. It kind of looked like a rolling pin, you know. In his left hand, he is called Sexum Ax Fut Overcomer of the power of the enemy. A hawk-headed entity with a Uraeus on his head is called Haru Duat, Horus of the Tuat. An entity which holds a knife in its hand and has the right raised to strike, he is called Sabun Hasak. Oh, Sabun Hasak Chebetu. The two hate-headed ones are called Bunte Yana. An entity with the head of a hawk and the head of an animal is called Set and Herur, which here is called He of the Two Faces. Herfha, you know, extended is probably maybe a better way to pronounce it. You have the crook of Osiris, Samust Satyr, is that how you pronounce it? And the upper half of a serpent called Mutton Yisur. Oh, Yisur is Osiris. Yisur. The term of Osiris facing an entity with the head of a lioness, which is called Cessnut Khu, Terrifier spirits. Khu is also the light beings, the angels, the Malaka, the Devas, the Ahuras, the Madriacs, whatever you want to call these unfallen angels. But these entities don't have choices, right? Three demonesses, each of whom has a scepter in her left hand and a uraeus on her head. The names are Masatrasus, and Hurtduate. Hurtdua. Maybe you pronounce the purr at the end. The entities Saksat, True, Yimmet, Nerfert, and so it's two N's. Yimmet, Nerfert, okay. Nefert. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. You have Nut, Duput, Yunt, and the lower register are an entity standing called Nabue, which is a fire being. So we're talking about a jinn here. 3 entities, each of whom has 2 ears of corn stuck in his hair. These are called Besua, Neper, and Nebu, are Peen. Perhaps we can say that the Goetia number 37, Peen, would be one of the ones talked about here. 3 entities, each holding a wheat in his left hand. Their names are, let's show the illustration there. Their names are Hacha, Ab, and Nupan. An entity holding a knife in his left hand, called Gir, Yist, Nutcher. Yes, okay, Yist is the seated, so Yist would be a name for Isis. Yist, okay. Instead of Isis, let's say Yist. 3 entities seated in mummy forms. The first has the head of a horned animal, is called Yuma Ah. Okay, it's not I pronounced it wrong differently. That diamond-shaped thing with like an udder at the end. The eater of the phallus. Wait, they have a god who that's a god of performing oral sex on men. Or is it killing men that way, perhaps? That's also a way of interpreting it. The second has the head of a man and is called Achbeat. And third has the head of a jackal, which is called Nabutta Chesser. Okay. It's the consumption of the human being. It's not a sensual thing. Because you've been bad with your sexual organs, so there's a demon that's going to come, there's going to be an entity that comes eat. That's right. You have the entity called Osiris, Wunfer. So Yes Eater, Wunnen, Nefer, Fur, wearing the crown of the, in mummy form, wearing the crown of the south. The entity Xu Sui, which holds in each hand a long lotus-top scepter surmounted by a star. Sometimes extra glyphs as determinatives would be pronounced, sometimes they wouldn't be, and sometimes either one way is fine. The 2-headed entity Horus set called Herf Af. And there we have the second, that lower register. The entity Horuhen, the 2 entities each holding in his left hand the sign of life inverted. Their names are Han and Hetchet. Oh, Hajj Tu. Very difficult names, some of these. But remember, Egypt came from the Nubian, came from the transatlantic Atlantis culture, as we call it. 3 entities, each holding a palm branch. Their names are Nahi, or Nar, Maxi, and Runpate. An entity who holds a knife in his left hand is called Afau, and an entity holding in his hand the symbol of the year which is called fa yur tru. The text referring to the ones in the upper register reads, and I'm not going to share all the hieroglyphs because I'm trying to be briefer with this, but those who are on this praise the great entity after he came forth to them, and behold is their words which lead him to them. They lament when he hath passed onwards, having spoken words to them. Behold, these entities are they who make the words of those who are upon the earth to reach, and it is they who make the souls to approach their forms. Their work consisteth in causing to come into being the offerings of the night, and in performing the overthrow at their hour. It is they who guard the day, and who bring on the night until this great entity cometh forth out of the thick darkness to repose in this court of the eastern horizon of heaven. They cry out in lamentation to this great entity, and they utter wailings for him after he hath passed by them. Those who know them shall come forth by day. You know, the book of coming forth by day. And he shall be able to journey during the night to the divisions of the great double city. The text which describe the duties of the entities in the lower register read, so angels, demons, God personified, divided into different parts. The messengers of God were often told after polytheism became a common thing that, oh, you're making all the gods one. You're taking off the image of the God. You're depersonalizing God. Well, yeah. Those who are on this picture give into this great, and the years which are in their hands, and this great entity hath made speech with them. They answer him, and they have life through the voice of this great entity, and their throats draw in breath. For when he crieth to them, he ordereth them what they are to do, and he appointeth to them green herbs in abundance in their field, and they supply with the green herbs of the entities which are in the following of Ra. So they're the demons. Ra is like Iblis in this context. And they make offerings of water to the spirits by the command of this great entity, and they kindled flames of fire in order to burn up the enemies of Ra. You know, some people believe that the devil's over hell instead of the hell being to punish the demons. And there is wailing to them, and they lament after this great entity hath passed them by. Yum Nabu is the guardian of this field. Whosoever knoweth this is in the condition of a spirit equipped with the words of power and protect him. The 5 lines which contain the address of the entity of the demons to Ra, and the answer of the entity reads, and the sarcophagus gives the ma yer iwer irk murunnik nut ox and wurunbuk ksper ru kui so yim me ue the Drasa Kek. Oh, well, it continues to read on. I thought there was just a little bit of variation, but let's see how the translation goes. The entities of the Duat speak to this great entity as he entereth in with understanding to the boundary, and he is borne over to Natra into Run, saying, Hail, thou who riseth as a mighty soul. Ka ba. You know, the sort of the mental soul. Who has received the Dawat. Yif, thou guardian of heaven, thou livest, O Yif, in Ta desert. Oh, desert. Okay, that was the term I was looking for when I started to read. Okay, I skipped ahead, but anyways, come thou and cast thou an eye in the name of the living one. Kpra, Kspra, oh, Kspri, at the head of the Dawat, the beetle thing. Traverse thou this field, O thou hast might, bind thou with fetters the Ha'a serpent, and smite the serpent Naharieh, which the rejoicing in heaven and their shouts of gladness upon the earth at the entrance of thy body. We're sort of a city of 9 gates, aren't we? The nose, the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus. He who shines sendeth forth light, and the Uru entities give light. And the Uru power gives light. The darkness which is in Yimit, the sister of Sexter Shata'a Ura, illuminate thou the darkness. O Yuf, his jawbones are to him, and Ra taketh his position in Yimit. Thy boat is to thee, and it is thy right. Thou art guided along, and those who convey thee over the water, who dwell in the earth, make calamities to come upon this Apep straightway on behalf. Remember, elsewhere we find that Bast fought Apep and Ra, but only to establish her position as the chief demoness, right? Straightway on thy behalf. Thy protector is the star entity Sabah. Remember Goetia number 43. Thou art praised and adored. Thy soul passeth on. Thou goest onward, and thy body is equipped with power. And the regions are opened. The doors of the hidden land are opened before thee. Yesir cometh unto thee. Yesir avengeth thee. And thy word is Ma'at against thy enemies. Thou goest to rest. Thou goest to rest in Yimut, and thou comest into being in the form of Kthra in the east. This great entity sendeth forth words to the demons which dwell in the Dawat, the fire being realm, in a way of speaking, the night side. And those who inhabit the saying, open your hidden doors, so that the entity Yif may look, and you may throw aside your darkness, clearing out your shadows, that you may draw your water from and your bread from, that the wind may come to your nostrils, that you may not be destroyed and overcome by your own foul odor, and that you may not be choked by your own dung, and that you may untie and cast away your swathings, and that ye may lift up your legs and walk upon them, and that ye may stretch out your arms, that your souls may not be made to remove themselves from you, O ye who live in your forms, and who utter your words of magic power, who are provided with your swords, that ye may hack into pieces the enemies of Yisur, whose seasons are permanent, whose years are well established, who pass your state of being in your hours, who dwell in your estates, who have your barley in your bread cakes, who have your loaves of bread made of the grain which is yours, whose word is Ma'at, truth. Depart from my boats, and retreat before my images, that may vivify anew this in your field, the paradise. the field, living ones, soul is amongst you, who has done battle on my behalf, who have protected me against Apep, who have life through my soul, who have being through my bodies, who establish your seats of holiness, which have been decreed to you, that ye may exist therein by day, who are in my following in the Duat, when I make my way through the night, and when I destroy the darkness. O grant me your help, so that I may travel on the following of my eye, and that I may journey forwards with those who go to my palace, to my place in the east. Utter ye cries of joy, O entities of the Duat, for I avenge you, for I order your destinies. Well, how you're going to be reacted upon in the afterlife is definitely because of your doing. When they have addressed this entity while rowing along his boat of Yim-Ta, Ta means earth, they cry out, and they bring him to rest in the field of Nepertia entities, of field of the Nepertiu entities, which are in the following of Yistir. If these scenes be done according to the similitudes which are in the hidden places of the palace, and if a man hath knowledge, these words, they shall act as magical protectors of a man upon earth, regularly, unfailingly, and eternally. The name of this hour is Sushta Makat Nabus. Okay. Nakat Nabus. Makat Nabus. Makat Nabus. And the other Susht, that bull there. Bear with me a second while I grab something to show you. One of the things that got me into archaeology of Egypt was being a Latter-day Saint. Nowadays, I wouldn't put pictures of my beloved turtles in my scriptures, but there is a mistranslated and misrepresented facsimiles here. And see, if you look at the original, which they actually have the original, we would have had things here and that over there, but he decided to make that look more human. And so by knowing what this is, and by looking at facsimile 2 and 3, it was apparent that it was time that I don't accept a church that only looks at the thing symbolically and finds something else. So we have different things being shown there, but I tried to piece it together as if it was honestly represented. And I tried to understand more, because, we have the processing of the dead body. And rather than the guy with his leg kicked up, he might have had an erection, and that was part of the power of the dead person going on, right? And, there would have been a few. One Holy Spirit. The Bible talks about 4 Holy Spirits here, 7 here. So the Holy Spirit thing's not a... and prayers for the dead. 4 sons of Osiris, allegedly. And You're shh. You know, it's mentioning Osiris and all this other stuff, the books of breathing and the copulating bull without equal. There's some stuff going on in here that's like, what are they doing in the temple? It turns out they're just it's just a Baptist group. The message was divinized. They were interpreting, their rituals are about Bible doctrine. There's stuff in the Bible that they're enacting. They're enacting stuff that's particular to their Book of Mormon, Polar Great Price, Doctrine and Covenants, or Book of Commandments, as it was called earlier. There is stuff. Egypt was also very interesting. It sounded like a founding of civilization, per se. So, I don't know. I may share more of that at some time, but anyways. Sharma, peace be upon you.